The galaxy was full of noise, light, and pride. The Verathi Alliance stood tall as the most powerful coalition of species in known space. Their fleets covered hundreds of star systems. Their trade routes carried wealth that seemed endless. And their leaders believed there was no enemy left who could truly challenge them. At the very center of this great web of power was the Grand Council Hall of Veyrath Prime, a massive structure of crystal and steel that rose like a spear above the capital city. Inside, voices clashed as alien delegates argued over new strategies and territorial disputes. But on that day, a quieter voice tried to be heard, an ancient voice, heavy with age and memory. That voice belonged to Elder Thaloran, one of the last remaining archivists of the First Era. His skin was pale, his movement slow, but his eyes still carried the weight of centuries. He stood before the council and raised a trembling hand. "You think yourself secure," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You think the galaxy belongs only to those you can see, but you have forgotten the warnings left by those who came before us. There is a species you mock, a species you call fragile, but I tell you this, do not provoke the humans." The chamber burst into laughter. Counselor Drell of the Karen, a reptilian being with scales that shimmered in the light, leaned forward with a mocking hiss. "Humans, Elder, your stories are older than the dust that clings to your robes. No record of them exists in living memory. They are myths, tales to frighten children." Others joined in. Some shook their heads, some chuckled, and others whispered about how the elders were losing their minds. But Elder Thaloran did not smile. His voice grew stronger. "They are not myths. Our ancestors recorded battles where humans stood against enemies far greater than themselves. They endured where others would have broken. They turned defeats into victories by refusing to yield. If they live still, they will be the storm you cannot contain." But the council did not want storms. They wanted certainty, power, and easy answers. Elder Thaloran's words were dismissed as the fading cries of an old man who remembered too much of the past. The council's confidence, the younger council members believed in their fleets. They believed in the firepower of ships that stretched miles long, in weapons that could burn planets, and in the countless soldiers under their command. Humans? To them, humans were a relic of forgotten records, maybe once real, maybe never. And even if they were real, how could a primitive species compare to the mighty Veyrathi Alliance? Counselor Rhaenyra of the Iluan spoke with smooth certainty. Her species was known for their cold logic, and her words carried weight. "We face real threats, not shadows. The Dracal Dominion grows stronger every cycle. They build warships at twice the speed of ours. If we waste our time on ancient ghost stories, we will fall behind." The council murmured agreement. The Dominion was the rival they all feared. It was a vast empire built on conquest, its war engines unmatched. Compared to that, what were humans? Nothing. Less than nothing. Still, the elders kept trying. The elders' chamber far below the shining halls of power lay the quiet libraries of the elders. Few visited these halls anymore. For most thought wisdom was found in numbers and weapons, not in dusty books or ancient records. But here the archivists guarded the old warnings. Elder Thaloran met with two others, Elder Vera and Elder Karun, both as aged as he was. Their voices were soft, but the worry in their tones was sharp. "They will not listen," Vera said. Her tendrils curled in unease. "The young ones mock us. They think our words are shadows." Thaloran nodded slowly. "It has always been this way. Each generation believes itself wiser than the last. But humans are not shadows. I have read the accounts. When the Saraxi Empire burned, it was humans who turned the tide. When the Trelvian fleets crushed a dozen worlds, it was humans who refused to kneel." Karun's eyes, dim with age, still glowed faintly. "Then perhaps the humans are gone. Perhaps they destroyed themselves as so many believe." Thaloran shook his head. "No, a species like that does not fade quietly. If they are silent now, it is because they wait. And if the council stirs them, they will awaken." The three elders shared a heavy silence. They had done their duty, spoken their warnings, but duty without ears to hear was like fire without air. It faded. And so they waited, knowing that if the day came, their words would no longer be warnings, they would be prophecy. Rising shadows, meanwhile, the galaxy stirred. Beyond the borders of the Alliance, the Dracal Dominion gathered strength. Their fleets patrolled the stars, their eyes fixed on expansion. War was coming, and everyone knew it. The Alliance prepared as best they could, building ships, forming strategies, and training soldiers. But the younger leaders grew arrogant. They believed no one could stop them. Every debate ended with the same conclusion. The alliance was unbreakable. In this atmosphere of pride, the elders' warnings about humans sounded even weaker. Who would worry about ghosts when real enemies were sharpening their blades? Yet whispers began to spread. Traders spoke of strange colonies on the edge of space, settlements that did not match any known species. Some said they were human. Others dismissed them as myths recycled by fearful minds. But the rumors grew, carried on the tongues of smugglers, explorers, and wanderers. The elders listened. Their fears deepened. The council still refused to act. The young and the old one day, Elder Thalarin was approached by a young officer, Captain Jirel of the Verathi Guard, who had heard fragments of the warnings. Unlike most, Jirel did not laugh immediately. "Elder," Jirel said with curiosity, "tell me why you fear these humans so much. The council says they are nothing, but your voice carries weight. What makes them different?" Thalarin studied him carefully. Here was one who still listened, even if only a little. "It is not their machines that you should fear, young captain. Machines can be destroyed. It is not their numbers, for they are not countless. It is their spirit. They fight with a will that does not bend. When all logic says surrender, they rise again. When all hope is gone, they find another way. Against such a will, even the strongest empire trembles." Jirel frowned. "But if they are so dangerous, why do we not see them ruling the stars already?" Thalarin's eyes darkened. "Because they do not seek to rule. They seek to endure. And when you force such a people into war, you awaken something far worse than ambition. You awaken survival. And survival can burn down empires." Jirel left with unease in his heart. He did not fully believe the elder, but the weight of his words clung to him. Perhaps, he thought, there was more truth in the past than the council admitted. Pride. Before the fall, the council continued its preparations against the Dominion, certain that no other power could rise to challenge them. Yet the rumors of human colonies grew stronger. Reports arrived of ships with strange markings, of outposts built in silence on distant worlds. The council ignored them all. "We have no time for fairy tales," Councillor Rhaenyra declared. "If these so-called humans exist, they are insignificant. Our fleets will crush them as easily as dust." And so the council laughed, debated, and planned wars against enemies they understood, while ignoring the shadow they did not. Closing of Part 1A as the session ended and the council chamber emptied, Elder Thalarin remained behind, staring out the great windows at the endless stars. His voice was soft, almost a whisper. "They do not listen," he murmured, "and when the day comes, it will already be too late." The stars gave no answer, but far away in the quiet of forgotten space, the humans endured, silent, watchful, waiting. The Verathi Alliance stretched across the stars like a giant web. Its fleets were vast, its colonies countless, and its leaders full of pride. To them, no hidden world, no forgotten species could ever challenge their strength. And yet, whispers of humans had begun to drift through the trade lanes. Smugglers spoke of strange colonies on the far edge of mapped space. Explorers claimed to have seen ships that did not match any known design. These stories reached the ears of the council, but they dismissed them as rumors. But rumors had a way of finding proof. The patrol discovery, it was a routine patrol. 2 sleek warships of the Alliance moved through the quiet systems near the border. Their mission was simple: scan, report, and discourage smugglers. Captain Sorel, a tall Avriat with sharp wings folded across his back, stood on the bridge of his ship. He was proud, like most officers of the Alliance. He believed in the strength of their fleets, and he looked down on anything outside their power. "Sector scan complete," reported his navigator. "No major traffic, but—" "Captain, there is something unusual." Sorel frowned. "Show me." The screen lit up. There, orbiting a barren-looking world, were several stations, crude, blocky, and simple in design. Around them moved ships far smaller and weaker than any Alliance vessel. "What are they?" Sorel demanded. The navigator hesitated. "The computer does not recognize their signature. They are not Drachal, not Karin, not Elune, not anyone known." Sorel narrowed his eyes. "Unknown? Impossible. Every power worth mentioning is in the records." The science officer spoke next, her voice uncertain. "Captain, the markings on those ships, they match old archives, very old. Elder records." The bridge grew quiet. Everyone understood what she meant. "Humans," someone whispered. First contact, the 2 patrol ships approached the colony. Messages began to arrive from the unknown station. The voices were strange, firm, cautious, but calm. This is Human Outpost Epsilon, the message said. Identify yourselves. We mean no harm. We request peaceful exchange. Sorel and his officers listened. Some looked uneasy. The elders had spoken of humans only as warnings, but to see them alive, thriving even, was unsettling. But Sorel only laughed. Look at their ships. Look at their stations. They are weak, outdated, laughable, and yet they try to speak as equals. His second officer frowned. Captain, perhaps we should respond respectfully. If these are the humans of legend. Sorel cut him off with a sharp hiss. Old stories. Nothing more. They are no different from the backwater species we conquered long ago. He opened a channel. His voice was full of arrogance. This is Captain Sorel of the Veyrathi Alliance. You are trespassing near Alliance territory. Your crewed stations will be inspected. Your ships will be seized. Submit now or be destroyed. On the other side of the transmission, silence followed. Then the human voice answered, calm but edged with steel. This is Human Outpost Epsilon. We are not trespassing. We are within our own claimed space. We have no wish for war, but we will not surrender our freedom. Sorel laughed again. Foolish creatures. You will learn the power of the Alliance. Reports to the Council, the discovery was carried back to the Council chambers of Veyrath Prime. The news caused a storm of arguments. Some shouted in disbelief, others in excitement. They live. One councillor exclaimed. The humans exist after all. Councillor Rhaenara of the Iluan shook her head sharply. So they exist. And what of it? Their ships are primitive. Their colonies are fragile. They are no threat. But the elders, one timid voice began. The elders, Rhaenara interrupted coldly, have filled this chamber with ghost stories for too long. We face real enemies. The Drakal Dominion prepares for war. We cannot waste time worrying about forgotten savages. Councillor Drell of the Cairn hissed in agreement. If the humans are weak, then seize them. Take their resources, their colonies, their labor. Let the Alliance expand. Some members nodded eagerly. The idea of easy conquest tempted them. At the back of the chamber, the elders sat silently. Their eyes were filled with sorrow. Elder Thaloran spoke at last. You laugh because you see weakness, but you do not understand. Humans are not dangerous because of their ships. They are dangerous because of their will. If you strike them, you will awaken a fire you cannot extinguish. But the council did not listen. The younger voices were too loud, too proud, dismissing diplomacy. The humans sent more messages. They offered trade, cooperation, even knowledge sharing. They asked for peace, for recognition of their right to exist, but the council only sneered. Peace? Rhaenara said, her voice dripping with scorn. What use is peace with insects? Their technology is centuries behind ours. Their colonies sit on valuable worlds. Why negotiate when we can take? One or two councillors suggested caution. They remembered the elders' warnings and the strange fear that always clung to the word human. But they were drowned out by the voices of ambition. The decision was made. Humans would be treated as a minor obstacle, to be crushed and absorbed into the Alliance. The elders' plea that night. In the quiet halls of the Elder Chamber, Thaloran met again with Elder Vera and Elder Karun. Their faces were heavy with despair. They do not listen, Vera said softly. They see only weakness. They think humans are prey, Thaloran nodded. But prey can become hunters. The council does not remember. They do not see the old records as truth. Korun's voice trembled. Then what will happen? Thaloran closed his eyes. The same thing that always happens when arrogance blinds the powerful. They will strike first, and the humans will strike back. And when they do, the Alliance will bleed. The arrogant vote. The next gathering of the council ended with a single, arrogant vote. The Veyrathi Alliance would invade human colonies. Not with a full war, they told themselves, but with controlled operations. Fleets would move in, seize stations, and claim resources. The humans would be given no choice. When the vote was cast, cheers rang through the chamber. To them, it was an easy victory already won. The elders sat in silence. Elder Thaloran whispered words no one else heard. It has begun. Far from the council at Outpost Epsilon, the humans prepared quietly. They had heard the threats. They had seen the arrogance. And though they hoped for peace, they knew war was coming. Commander Hale, leader of the outpost, stood before his officers. His voice was steady, his gaze sharp. They think us weak, he said. They think our ships are outdated. They think our colonies will fall like dry leaves. Let them believe it. We will show them the truth when the time comes." The humans nodded, silent but determined. For centuries they had hidden, building quietly in the shadows of the galaxy. They had not sought war, but they had never forgotten it either. Now as the Alliance prepared to strike, humanity prepared to endure. Closing of Part 2, the Council laughed. The Elders mourned. The fleets of the Alliance readied for conquest. And far away, beneath the cold stars, the humans sharpened their will. The warnings had been ignored. Contact had been made, the storm was coming. The fleets of the Veyrathi Alliance moved like a storm through the stars. Their ships were vast, sharp, and armed with weapons powerful enough to tear apart moons. To the Council, the coming battle against humans was already won. The decision had been made: seize human colonies, silence resistance, and claim resources. The younger counselors believed it would take only a handful of days. To them, it was nothing more than a small campaign. But war has a way of humbling the proud. The first attack, the humans of Outpost Epsilon had prepared for the worst. Their stations were simple, their ships small, but their spirit was firm. When the Alliance fleet arrived, they were ready. The sky above the human colony darkened as Alliance warships descended. Captain Sorrel, leading the fleet, opened a channel with the same arrogance as before. "This is the Veyrathi Alliance. Surrender your outpost. Shut down your systems. You will be spared if you obey." Commander Hale stood on the bridge of the human flagship, the Resolute. His ship was smaller, older, and weaker than the massive Alliance vessels surrounding him. Yet his voice carried strength. "This is human outpost Epsilon. We will not surrender. We did not seek war, but we will defend our people." Sorrel laughed. "Defend with what? Your scrap metal ships? This battle is already over." Then the Alliance opened fire. Energy beams lanced through the void, tearing into human defenses. Stations shook. Ships burned. For a moment it seemed the Council had been right. Humans would fall quickly, but they did not. Human resistance. The humans fought back in ways the Alliance did not expect. Their ships moved with strange patterns, weaving and darting between enemy fire. Some deliberately rammed damaged vessels into Alliance cruisers, turning wreckage into weapons. On the ground, human soldiers sabotaged landing forces, setting traps that turned simple patrols into disasters. Every strike from the Alliance was met with resistance sharper than expected. Sorrel's officers grew uneasy. "Captain," one said, "their tactics are unusual. They sacrifice ships, but every time they do, we lose more than they do. Our fleet progress is slowing," Sorrel snarled. "They are desperate. Break them and this will end." But the desperation was something else entirely. It was willpower, the fire within. The Council watched reports from far away. At first they cheered. Human colonies burned, and Alliance ships pressed forward. But as the days stretched into weeks, the tone shifted. The losses grew. A fleet meant to seize one colony quickly was now stuck in drawn-out battles. Human sabotage delayed supply lines. Outposts expected to fall in hours resisted for months. The Elders said nothing at first. They had warned enough. But when the reports grew darker, Elder Thalarin finally spoke. "Do you see it now? You measured their ships. You measured their stations. But you did not measure their will. This is what humans are." Rhaenyra dismissed him, though her voice carried less certainty. "They bleed, they burn. In time they will fall." But in her private chambers, even she could not ignore the growing fear that humans were not like other species. The captured officer on one battlefield. An Alliance strike team managed to capture a human officer alive. He was brought before Sorrel, wounded but standing tall. Sorrel studied him with curiosity. "You fight like mad creatures. You throw yourselves into hopeless battles. Why? Why resist when defeat is certain?" The human smiled through the blood on his face. "You think this is defeat? You've destroyed outposts, yes. You've killed many, yes. But you don't understand. You haven't beaten us. You've only woken us up," Sorrel scoffed. "Empty words." But those words echoed in his mind long after the prisoner was taken away. Shadows in the stars, the humans began to use strategies the Alliance had never seen before. They struck supply convoys instead of fleets, cutting off food and fuel. They planted mines in asteroid fields, forcing warships to crawl cautiously instead of charging. They hacked into communication lines, spreading false orders and confusion. Entire Alliance fleets arrived at battles only to find their targets already evacuated, leaving traps behind that crippled engines and burned fuel reserves. It was not strength of weapons. It was strength of thought. Humans fought not only with guns, but with creativity born of desperation. And every loss the humans suffered only hardened their resolve. Fear spreads among the common soldiers of the Alliance. Whispers began to spread. Humans don't die like others, one soldier said. Even when we crush them, they keep coming. They fight like they have nothing to lose, another muttered. Stories grew, exaggerated but powerful. Tales of human soldiers fighting on with broken weapons, of damaged ships destroying entire cruisers, of colonies refusing to surrender even when surrounded. Fear spread faster than truth. The Council divided back on Veyrath Prime. The Council grew restless. Some shouted for more fleets to be sent, demanding total destruction. Others began to doubt. We should have listened to the elders, one counselor whispered. These are not ordinary enemies, but pride kept the majority firm. If we retreat now, Renara declared, we show weakness. We are the Alliance. We cannot be defeated by savages. The vote was cast again, more fleets, more soldiers, more fire. The war would continue. The elders only bowed their heads. A turning point at Outpost Epsilon, Commander Hale stood with his officers. The battle had been long, but the people endured. His voice carried calm determination. They thought we would fall in days, he said. We have stood for months. They think us weak, but we will show them strength they cannot measure. This war is only beginning. Behind him, the stars seemed endless, filled with the promise of both danger and hope. Closing of Part 3. The Alliance had struck first, believing victory was certain. Instead, they found themselves bleeding against an enemy they did not understand. The elders' warnings rang louder in the silence of the council chambers, and among the humans, a new fire had been lit. The first strike had been made. But the true war was only beginning. The Alliance fleets had struck first. They had burned human colonies, destroyed outposts, and sent countless warnings of their power. To the Council, this was proof of their greatness. But beneath the surface of their easy victories, something unexpected was happening. The humans were changing. Silence. Before the storm, for a short time, the Alliance thought the war was ending. Human resistance seemed weaker, as if their forces were pulling back. Fleets reported fewer enemy ships, fewer ambushes. Counselor Rhaenara spoke proudly in the chamber. You see? The humans are breaking. Their courage fades. Soon they will surrender. But Elder Thalarin shook his head slowly. His voice was quiet, yet it carried through the hall. No, they are not breaking. They are gathering. You have not silenced them, you have awakened them. The council ignored him as they always had, and then the storm came. The first retaliation, it began with small strikes. A single Alliance convoy carrying fuel and supplies vanished without a trace. Then another. And another. When patrols were sent to investigate, they found only wreckage drifting through space. Alliance ships torn apart with precision. Not by large fleets, but by fast-moving human vessels that struck like lightning and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Reports spread quickly. Humans were not fleeing. They were fighting back. Captain Sorrell, still leading part of the fleet, received the news with disbelief. Impossible. They are scattered, broken. How can they strike us so effectively? His science officer answered grimly. They are not broken, Captain. They are learning. Every battle we fight, they adapt. Every mistake they make, they do not repeat. Sorrell's wings twitched uneasily. For the first time, doubt entered his heart. Hidden strength. The truth was that humanity had never revealed its full strength. For centuries, they had lived quietly on the edges of the galaxy, building in secret. They had studied old enemies, old wars, and the lessons of survival. Now, with the Alliance forcing them into war, humanity began to reveal what it had hidden. From distant colonies came ships larger and more advanced than those first outposts had shown. They were not countless, but each was built with precision, mixing old designs with clever upgrades. On the bridge of the human flagship Valiant, Admiral Reyes stood before his officers. His voice was steady, his gaze sharp. They think us weak, he said. They think our silence meant fear. But silence is not fear, it is patience. Now we answer. Not with words, but with action. The human fleets launched from their hidden bases, ready to strike deep into Alliance lines. Shock in the stars. The first major counterattack came at Lareth Station, a supply hub critical to the Alliance fleet. Dozens of warships guarded it, confident that humans could never attack something so heavily defended. But the humans did. Their ships arrived not in formation, but in waves, using asteroids as cover. They moved fast, striking weak points in the defense grid. Drones, small and fast, swarmed enemy ships, disabling weapons and engines. When an Alliance cruiser tried to retreat, humans deliberately rammed damaged ships into its hull, turning destruction into weapons. By the time the smoke cleared, Lareth Station was gone. The Alliance fleet was in shock. They had not lost because of numbers. They had lost because the humans fought in ways no one else dared. Fear among the soldiers' news spread quickly across the Alliance. Soldiers whispered in fear. "They don't fight like us," one said. "They don't follow the rules of war. They turn wreckage into traps. They strike where we are weakest." Another muttered. "They don't care about dying. They only care about winning." For the first time, the proud armies of the Alliance began to question if they were fighting something beyond their control. The Council trembles back on Veyrath Prime. The Council grew restless. Arguments filled the chamber. "We must crush them with everything we have." Drell of the Kharin shouted, "Send the full fleets. Burn their colonies to ash." But others were less certain. "Every time we send more," another councillor said nervously, "we lose more. They bleed us slowly and still they endure." Renara's calm voice rose above the noise. "We are the Alliance. If we retreat now, we show weakness. That cannot happen." Elder Thalarin stood, his voice low but sharp. "You think retreat shows weakness? No, wisdom is not weakness, but arrogance. Arrogance is death. You cannot fight humans as you fight others. You cannot outnumber them. You cannot outgun them. You must leave them alone or they will bring your empire to its knees." The chamber fell silent for a moment. But pride was still stronger than fear. The vote was cast. The war would continue. The turning point humanity's response grew stronger with every passing cycle. Their fleets struck deeper, crippling not just outposts but the very heart of Alliance infrastructure. They targeted shipyards, destroying half-built cruisers before they could leave dry dock. They ambushed communication relays, leaving fleets stranded and blind. At first, the Alliance believed it was coincidence, but as the strikes continued, they realized the truth. The humans were not just surviving. They were winning. Admiral Reyes stood aboard the Valiant studying the galactic map. Red markers showed Alliance fleets. Blue markers showed human colonies. Slowly, the balance was shifting. "They wanted war," he said to his officers. "Now they will see what war with humanity truly means." A lesson in fear. One of the most devastating human strikes came at Xenar Prime, an industrial world deep within Alliance territory. No one believed humans could reach it. The planet was protected by fleets, defense satellites, and orbital stations, but the humans did not attack directly. Instead, they disabled communication relays around the planet, cutting it off from reinforcements. Then they struck supply lines, starving the defenses. When the final attack came, it was swift and brutal. Human ships appeared from hidden jump points, disabling orbital stations before they could respond. On the ground, factories exploded in flames as saboteurs already planted months before set charges. Xenar Prime, once the pride of Alliance industry, burned within days. The shockwave of fear spread through the galaxy. If humans could strike so deep, nowhere was safe. The Dominion watches far away. The Drakal Dominion observed the war with growing interest. At first, they had planned to strike the Alliance once it was weakened. But now they hesitated. Reports of human tactics reached them. Reports of their victories, their resilience, their terrifying will to fight. The Dominion's warlords met in secret. One finally spoke. "We thought the Alliance was our greatest rival. We were wrong. The humans are the true danger." And so even the Dominion paused its plans, waiting and watching as humanity reshaped the galaxy's balance. Cracks in the Alliance. The Alliance itself began to fracture. Some member species grew restless. "We did not join to fight endless wars against shadows," one representative said. "Our fleets are bleeding," another cried. "Our people fear the humans more than the Dominion." But the leaders who still held power refused to yield. To admit defeat would be to admit weakness, and weakness to them was death. The human message. After months of counterstrikes, the humans finally sent a message to the Alliance. It was short, simple, and carried a cold strength. We did not want war. You forced it upon us. We will defend our people, our homes, and our freedom. You will learn that humanity does not kneel. The message spread across the stars, seen by soldiers, civilians, and leaders alike. To some, it was defiance. To others, it was prophecy. Closing of Part 4, the humans had been underestimated. Their silence had been mistaken for weakness. Their patience had been mocked as fear. Now the truth was revealed. They fought with a strength no fleet could measure, a will no empire could break. The Alliance had struck first. But the human response was reshaping the war, and with it the destiny of the galaxy. The Elders' warnings were no longer whispers. They were echoes of truth, carried on the fire of human resolve, and the Council, still too proud to yield, had no idea how close the end truly was. The war had raged across the stars for months. At first, the Alliance believed they could win quickly. They had crushed smaller powers before, and they thought humans would be no different. But humans were not like the others. Every strike against them only made them stronger. Every battle lost only taught them new lessons. Now the tide had turned. The Alliance was bleeding, and no Council order could stop it. The humans had risen with fury, with unity, with a fire the galaxy had not seen in centuries. The weight of fear. In the capital city of Veyrath Prime, the Alliance Council chamber had lost its proud glow. Once filled with voices of arrogance, it was now filled with fear. Reports from the front lines arrived daily, each worse than the last. Colonies burned. Shipyards vanished in fire. Fleets were ambushed, cut apart, left as broken wrecks drifting through the void. Councillor Drell slammed his clawed hand against the table. We cannot lose to them. They are only one species. They are nothing compared to the might of the Alliance. But even he sounded tired, his words empty. Renara's calm voice broke the silence. We called them weak. We called them fragile. And yet they are the ones breaking us. Our fleets are scattered, our people afraid. Tell me, Drell, who is weak now? Elder Thalarin's eyes glimmered sadly. He had warned them from the beginning. Now his voice carried no pride, only sorrow. It is already too late. You did not listen. You chose arrogance over wisdom, and now you will pay the price. The human Advance Admiral Reyes stood aboard the human flagship Valiant. Before him, the galactic map glowed with markers of red and blue. Red showed Alliance fleets and colonies. Blue showed human forces. Slowly, the blue spread like fire across the map, consuming red one system at a time. His officers waited silently. They all knew what this moment meant. The time has come, Reyes said firmly. They thought we were prey. They thought we would bow. But humanity does not bow, we rise. Today we carry the fight to their very heart. The Alliance will learn that war with humans is not just costly, it is impossible to survive. A cheer rose from the bridge crew. They were tired, but their spirits burned bright. Humanity had endured the worst, and now they stood stronger than ever. The order was given. The fleets prepared for their greatest strike. Crumbling defenses, the humans launched a massive campaign deep into Alliance territory. They did not simply attack fleets. They targeted the pillars that held the Alliance together. One by one, major shipyards were destroyed. Starports went silent. Trade lines collapsed. Worlds once rich with supplies found themselves starving. Alliance admirals tried to rally defenses, but the humans always seemed to know where to strike. Some whispered that spies lived within the Council itself. Others feared the humans were simply too clever, too unpredictable to be stopped. At Calthor Ridge, an entire Alliance fleet of 200 ships faced a human force less than half its size. The Alliance expected an easy victory. Instead, they were drawn into an asteroid field, where human warships used cover and clever traps. Mines, drones, and hidden cannons ripped through the larger fleet. By the end, only a handful of Alliance ships escaped. It was no longer just defeat. It was humiliation. The people began to question. Across Alliance worlds, citizens began to whisper dangerous thoughts. They told us the humans were weak, one trader muttered in a crowded marketplace. But who is weak now? Our fleets flee, and the humans strike wherever they please. On another world, a mother whispered to her child, the humans only fight because we attacked them first. Perhaps they are not monsters. Perhaps it is our leaders who brought this doom upon us. Fear turned to doubt, and doubt turned to anger. The proud image of the Alliance began to crack, not just on the battlefield but at home. A final warning back in the council chamber, Elder Thalarin stood one last time. His voice was heavy, as if carrying the weight of 1,000 years. "You still do not understand," he said. "The humans fight not for conquest, not for greed, not for pride. They fight for survival. That is why you cannot defeat them. That is why you will fall." Counselor Rhaenyra turned her gaze upon the others. "We cannot undo what has been done. We can only choose what comes next. Do we continue this war knowing it will end in our ruin, or do we beg for peace before we are erased?" But pride was still strong in many. Some shouted for more fleets, more weapons, more fire. They did not see the truth until it was far too late. The battle for Veyrath Prime. The final blow came sooner than anyone expected. Humanity struck at the heart of the Alliance, Veyrath Prime itself. The system was defended by massive fleets, planetary shields, and countless weapons. The Council believed it was untouchable, but the humans had studied every weakness. Their fleets entered the system in coordinated waves, striking from multiple directions. Drones overloaded defense platforms. Saboteurs hidden within the city shut down shield generators. In space, the Valiant led the charge, carving through enemy cruisers with relentless precision. Admiral Reyes stood calm, his eyes never leaving the battle. Press forward. End this war. The skies above Veyrath burned with fire. Alliance fleets shattered. Defenses fell one by one, and then the humans descended to the planet itself. The fall of the Council inside the Grand Chamber. Alarms blared. The Council watched in disbelief as human ships filled the skies above their capital. Counselor Drell, once so proud, collapsed into his chair. "It cannot be. We are the Alliance. We are invincible." Rhaenyra stood tall, her voice steady even as the walls shook. "No, we were invincible only in our arrogance, and arrogance is why we fall." Elder Thalarin closed his eyes. "It is over. The humans are here. The warnings have come true." Moments later, human troops entered the chamber. They did not gloat. They did not boast. They simply stood firm, their presence alone enough to silence the once mighty rulers. The human message Admiral Reyes appeared before the Council, not with anger but with a cold, steady calm. "You struck first," he said. "You burned our colonies. You thought us weak, but weakness does not survive on Earth. We warned you with silence. You did not listen. We warned you with strikes. You did not listen. Now you face the result of your arrogance." The Council sat silent. None dared speak. Reyes continued. "We do not seek your extinction, but we will never bow. The Alliance as it is ends today. If you wish to live, you will respect humanity. You will never again bring war to our worlds." His words carried across the galaxy. Every species heard them. Every leader understood. The age of the Alliance was over. The new dawn in. The days that followed, the Alliance collapsed. Some member species surrendered willingly, seeking peace. Others broke away, no longer willing to fight. Humanity did not enslave, nor did they conquer. They rebuilt what had been broken, offering trade instead of chains, peace instead of fire. But all who looked upon them remembered the war. They remembered how one species had stood against many and prevailed. Among the stars, a new balance was born. Humanity was no longer ignored. No longer underestimated, they were respected and feared. The Elder's final words, on a quiet world far from the battles, Elder Thalarin walked alone beneath the stars. Younger voices asked him of the war, of the humans who had risen so high. He answered simply, "They were warned. Again and again they were warned." But no one listened, and so it was too late. The stars shone above, cold and eternal, but in them, one truth was forever etched. Humanity had changed the galaxy, not by choice, but by necessity. And none would ever forget the lesson. Closing of Part 5, the story ends with the Alliance's downfall and humanity's rise. Not as conquerors, but as survivors who reshaped the galaxy with their unbreakable will. The Elder's warnings, ignored for so long, became a legend, and the words carried through history.